She can't sleep when the lights are off. She can't sleep when she's alone. She thinks that those who raped her are everywhere, in the attic, in the window, outside their house. Good day, everything! Welcome back to my vlog. So today, I'm going to have another book review. Last time, the book review that I've made was about the Joy Luck Club, about mother-daughter relationship, sort of. So I've been thinking that today, I'm going to do a father-daughter relationship kind of book that I personally love to read. Yeah, I've read this for the second time already, and it just never gets old. Okay, so the book that I've chosen for today is A Time to Kill by John Grisham. Okay, so the book started when two intoxicated, high, sexually deprived men, white man, is raping a 10-year-old black girl. So they repeatedly beat her, raped her until she was barely clinging to life, calling up for her daddy. So sad. Yeah, I know. Then, fortunately for the girl, the white man heard a car pass by and they were scared. So instead of thoroughly killing her, they drove off and just dumped her in a unknown street until she was found by black folks. And fortunately, again, the sheriff of that place, the Sheriff Ozzy, thought that these two men, Billy Ray Cobb and the other one, is the suspect. So he tracked them down because there are witnesses who saw their car, and there is no other car in that town with that color, with that description, and the sheriff deducted that this must be the culprit. So he arrested them, and the father, upon knowing that her daughter was raped, was so distraught. When they got to the hospital, the mother was hysterical, the father was so heartbroken, and when they saw their child was in operation that time, and when the doctor came out, he told them that her jaw's broken, her several of her ribs are broken, her legs are broken, her soul is broken. Not, yeah, generally, and it was so sad for the father and the parents, generally the family of the black girl. So in here, it was like the law was served quickly, but the father was not satisfied because he have this burning in his heart that can only be quenched by death. So the father really planned to kill these criminals who raped her daughter, and he planned this thoroughly that it was just so smooth sailing. He hid in a broom's closet in the court, at the back door, near the back door, where the suspects were escorted out. When the suspects were out, he just bust their heads out with the M16, and for me, it was utterly terrifying but satisfying at the same time. I was saying in myself that it serves him right from doing that to a little girl. They deserve to die. Yeah, they do. It was not humanistic, but for me, it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do for a father, a very distraught father. Carl have his lawyer already, Jake Brigance. So Jake is a young, white, very passionate criminal lawyer who had saved Carl's brother from gas chamber when his brother Lester murdered someone. It was very complicated because Carl Lee Haley had suddenly dropped Jake Brigance, then accepted Bomo Marfarsky, the lawyer that has been hired by his friend Kat Prester, not knowing that this Bomo Marfarsky have no license to practice in their place, and is not really interested in his case, I guess, because he haven't really visited Carly Hiley during their brief time together. So Jake, being the smart lawyer, called Carl's brother Lester, then told him that he was dropped. He's not his brother's lawyer anymore, and that the next day, I guess, Lester came down to their place and told his brother that you should hire Jake back because Jake is it's an amazing lawyer. He is the one who got me out of prison, who got me out of the gas chamber. So, yeah. So, generally, now, Jake became Carl's lawyer again. And it was so hard for them because uh, Carl hasn't have no money to give to them. They can't pay Jake the right amount. He can't feed his family. Yeah. So the sad thing about this time is that there's this clan. The clan, they call themselves the clan. They've been threatening the lawyers, the sheriff, or everything involved in the case that are they think that are in favor of the blacks. And there's this time that the clan had put a dynamite under the window of Jake's house just to end it already. Thankfully, Ellen Roark had arrived, and she's a third year law student who is really interested in the Haley case. So she helped out Jake, and at this time, when the trial haven't begun yet, Jake was really pushing for a change of venue, like, because it seems unfair because the jury that will be chosen knows what happened and they have already prejudged the situation. Unfortunately, Judge News pushed for the venue to be held at their town. And when they chose the jury, it was so unfortunate because they have chosen an all-white jury. So it was very hard for Jake to on what to do. So yeah, what's a beautiful thing about this is that the black community have really united together. They had vigils in their church. They donated money for the Hiley family. Then during the before the trial, the black community had a vigil in front of the courthouse, and the clan also have their sort of vigil, which turned into a riot, and the leader of the clan was hurt, and the clan was up for revenge. They really are angry because they think that this clan thinks that the black people, the black community was given more freedom than they deserve because racism is still here. Welcome racism. So then Jake's house was set on fire. Thankfully, he's not there when that happened. And it was so sad because their house was a historical site and it was burned to the ground without his wife knowing. And yeah. Then when the trial started, it was so long, so chaotic that there are many witnesses, including the officer that I've mentioned that when Carly Hiley killed those two boys, he also sort of gunned a officer, which lost his leg in the process. But thankfully, when the trial was there, the officer had been invited to the witness stand, and it was fun because he was really into supporting Carly Hiley because he said that he did not have a grudge for Carly Hiley because he thinks that what he's done is the right thing to do. And there are lots of people who were in the witness stand during the trial so when the trial was almost over, Jake thinks that he will not win this war anymore, so he's a bit down. And Ellen Rourke was kidnapped by the clan. Thankfully, Mickey Mouse was there, so when the clan dispersed, Mickey Mouse let her go and genuinely saved her life. And after the trial's been chaotic, the trial's been ugly, and the little girl is there. And the jury have really a hard time deciding what will be their verdict. They are very fearful of what will happen because they've been receiving death threats from the clan. They've been stressed because they've been away from their families for weeks already. And thankfully, one jury stood up and told them that if we will file for a mistrial, if we will not do this now, this will happen again for the next month. This distressing situation will happen again. The people are hurt. We are like that. So at the end of the day of the last decision making process, they had their decision firm, and thankfully it was to free Carly Hiley. When I heard that, I was so happy because upon reading it, I have really witnessed that Jake is distraught. Nawawala na siya ng pag-asa, and I think it's really that he's self-expecting that he will lose. Thankfully, his closing statement was a blast. It was really good. So I think it's one of there's an impact. It had an impact on the jury. But the sad thing for me is that the little girl was in a very big trauma. Throughout the book, I've truly read that she can't sleep when the lights are off. She can't sleep when she's alone. She thinks that those who raped her are everywhere, in the attic, in the window, outside their house. So they have a police in their house every night, and they always woke up in the middle of the night of her shouting because she was traumatized. I was really angry with the rapist because that little girl is traumatized like big time, and she can't go on her normal life anymore. Imagine like that. Imagine that happening, right? And I'm truly sympathetic to the situation, and I'm truly happy that Carly Hiley killed those men to rid the world of those rapists. And yeah, Tonya cannot have children anymore because of that happening. It is so sad. Yeah. Okay, so I have a list of the important aspects of the book for me. First is that the book may feel excruciatingly long, but it's explicitly written, which will make you understand every angle of the story, every angle of the situation, every angle of the people, the point of view, the happenings. Yeah. Second is that the intended emotion is relayed effectively to us readers, because I was totally hooked by this book. And for the second time that I've read this, I think I've finished this for 2 days. Yeah, considering it's a bit, yeah. Then next is that it is so complicated to understand law terms, but in this book, John Grisham totally made these terms understandable for readers like me, who doesn't have any background in laws and the thing. Then lastly is the author's writing style is very amazing. It's creatively presented. The use of the literary devices was there. It was so on point. It was amazing, and I really loved generally the writing style of the author. So next, I am going to give you some quotable lines from the book that I love more or less. Yeah. So here it is. I don't condone violence, but at times it is necessary to. It is truly necessary, especially to those raping men, rapists. Then, the rape of a child is horrible crime. And who's to blame a father for rectifying the wrong? A white father that is. A black father evokes the same sympathy among blacks. But there's a problem. The jury will be white. So this line is so sad because it shows that there's a big discrimination for black people at this time. Because although it was right, it was brutal and ugly. It's another line. Then another line from the book is, I think children have a right not to be raped. Their parents have the right to protect them. I think little girls are special. And if mine was tied to a tree and gang raped by two dopeheads, I'm sure it would make me crazy. I think good and decent fathers should have a constitutional right to execute any pervert who touches their children. And I think you're a lying coward when you claim you would not want to kill a man who raped your daughter. This line just shows that a father's love for his child, especially his daughter, is very great, that he would go to any lengths just to protect his child. Yeah. And I can relate because my father is so protective of me. Another is, most of the older folks were always dislike blacks. But the younger generation has accepted an integrated society. Less bigotry as a rule with youth. So meaning that old folks, old white men have less tolerance for the acceptance of black people. However, the youth, the young people of today especially, have a very open mind, open hearts in accepting everybody, because racism is still rampant today, but not as worse as it is yesterday. It was in the past. Yeah. So now fathers do everything for their children in just any circumstances possible, because it was true from the book, and it was true to me because my father was very protective. My father was he will really do anything for me. Yeah, I truly proved that, and I was thankful for that, and I love my father for that. Anyways, if you want to read a book that is sort of like this theme, I want to recommend to you The Testament by Grisham. It is sort of like a father children book, but it have a different taste in it, because you would know when you read it. It's a different taste from this book, but it's generally the same theme, a bit opposite, but have the same theme. Okay, so now if I were to rate the book, I will give this book a 5 stars, because aside from the fact that it made me cry, the book is very relatable for me. It was so well written, and it made me realize that father's love is very deep, and they would go to great lengths just to protect their daughters. And I was drowned with this. Like, I stayed up all night I stayed up all night just to finish reading this. And I haven't felt sleepy. Really. So that's all for today. I hope you like my review, and please press like, and if you can, subscribe if you truly like this. Thanks for watching.